Podcast 167, Flower Power. It's all the hippie stuff, flower power, and what you need to do with feeds, lighting. Lighting's pretty simple. You do nothing with lighting, really. And your techniques for flowering. I'm going to talk about boosters, and PKs, and PGRs, and hardeners.
Don't say that on this podcast.
But let's start it off with an industry announcement.
Do it like the news.
No, actually, Coach, you do a proper news shit, okay? We're going to get one of these. I'll tell you. What do we get? I've got a lot to talk about. We went to London yesterday, but I'll get to that after the intro. You ready? Okay. Shut that window for us, Josh. There's women outside. Women.
And I got rid of her. Yeah. You can come to ours, Josh, and shut her up as well.
I live quite close. You can come to ours after.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, got that. Everyone watching. The whole family.
Are you ready to go? Are you going to be in the house that I built, in the booth that I built?
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast.
Right, industry announcement. AutoPot selling the company. Goodbye, everybody.
A load of fucking
shite. So here's the fake news, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid. The reason this is being posted, as there is a certain ignorant and rather rude salesperson roaming around the country speaking very badly about me personally and speaking about AutoPot in a bad light. Therefore, I thought it wise to put all the gossip from this lovely gentleman's mouth to bed. I've never met this foul-mouthed gentleman and actually wouldn't know what he looks like. I can only assume that he is feeling a little disgruntled as he was never interviewed for a position at AutoPot, when there was not actually a position to be filled. So if you do happen to find yourself in an unfortunate position of having him standing in your business, try not to listen to anything that leaves his mouth, as it is generally not positive at all. Needless to say, all the store owners that have had the unpleasant pleasure of meeting him don't really want him to return. And if I do decide to sell a company, be sure that this particular individual will be the last to know. If by chance you do happen to stumble on an alien invasion, wear ear defenders. You'll need them. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Do you know what? It's great, isn't it? It's just, you got fucking turfed out of our shop as well, you gobshite. And it is what it is. Hey, not arsed. Not arsed, lad. You know what's great about it, though? It's great because I was right, wasn't I? And I was right. And that certain person went round telling everyone, oh, them. Now you've done it to everyone. You know what I mean? Sort your shit out, lad.
So, two things to mention. If you're a rep listening to this podcast, then, and this just isn't our advice, this is like good industry advice. If you've got a competing product, don't slag off the competing product.
When you're a rep and you come into someone's shop, promote your product, tell them how good it is. Don't slate the opponent, because you walk into a shop and you're like, oh, that shit. What have you got, lad? A copy of it? I don't know what's that supposed to be fucking great, is it? You know what I mean? All this shit is bad marketing.
Yeah, and the thing that I didn't understand is some people are going to do that regardless. They're going to badmouth the other company's products. Don't do it a week after the AutoPot festival.
You've had a fucking wonderful time at AutoPot.
So you were going to bring this up 2 weeks ago, weren't you? And we forgot.
Yeah,
and then we were going to bring it up last week, but we're like, oh, it's finished, leave it. Yeah. And then we've been told that happens, that AutoPot was selling the company, which is, if you just look at AutoPot are a partner of the podcast and you don't invest in ventures when you're about to sell a company, like a telltale sign that someone is selling the company is they do nothing. They do no marketing. They keep as much money in as possible to make their company look as profitable as possible. Absolute fake news. And I think Jason's Facebook post and hopefully his podcast.
He's not happy, like, is he? And I wouldn't be neither.
At all. He does not pull his punches.
I wouldn't be.
But yeah, absolutely fake news. And AutoPot are doing great things. We're going to actually, I was speaking to Jason today and talking about the partners of this podcast. We don't advertise them, but we want to talk about what they're up to and what they're doing. So we've emailed everybody, and you'll be getting some top tips, some facts about each of the companies and what they're up to around the world as well. So while we're talking about the partners, I would just like to say thank you to CANNA, AutoPot, SANlight, Can Filters, and Revolution Microelectronics for allowing us to do this podcast. And I've actually been on all their websites today just to double check before I mention this. And every single one of the websites is lovely. It's got lots of information. CANNA with canna-uk.com. Lots of information for your nutrients. Lots of unbiased information, just general information about nutrients in general. AutoPot is autopot.co.uk. Anything you need to know about this system is on there. So if you've got questions, head straight to that website. It's all there. SANlight is www.sanlight.com. All about their LEDs. Can Filters, this one's a careful one, www.canfilters.nl, Netherlands, because they're separate, the US and Canada, to the European version, very separate, so make sure you're on that .nl version. And Revolution Microelectronics is revolutionmicro.com. Go and visit them and check out their HPSs, the ceramic metal halides, and their Avicii LED as well. So thank you very much to the partners of the show. It's
man.
And the listeners.
We wouldn't be here without them, would we, Steve?
No. But I've got to say this every time to the listeners, the most important people. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to say this at the beginning rather than at the end, so that everyone gets to hear it. It's just thank you very much for the listens. All the messages that you send in, whatever time of night or day, just saying, well done, we enjoyed that podcast. Or even if you didn't like the podcast, send the messages in so that we can improve it. I appreciate every message and everyone that listens. It's humbling every time you send a message. So thank you very much. There's another thing that's come up today, and this wasn't asked to be mentioned, but I think it should be mentioned, and this applies in general as well, fittings, specific fittings for systems and what's the actual word? You get blag stuff, don't you? Like you get blag.
I've seen an Instagram post on that yesterday.
Which the fittings,
the 16 to 6 mil cross connectors. AutoPot.
So this is genuine. That's what the word.
No, that's what
genuine.
It was showing you an AutoPot 16 to 6 mil, and then it was showing you the blag one, and the flow rate was different coming out of each.
You're closer to. You're not an engineer, but you're much closer to being an engineer than I am.
What do you mean?
So you're a builder, but you got an engineering brain. Like you wouldn't think that a 16 to 6 mil cross connector. And if you don't know what they are, it's a 16 mil. It's a connector for 16 mil pipe, and on the edges of them is like a T-piece that is 6 mil, and it's used to connect your AutoPot specifically. But you literally wouldn't think that you could do that wrong, would you? It's such a simple piece of equipment.
That's, you know what that'll be, don't you? Though that'll be the, like, I don't know whether it's like where the die or the cast that they're using won't be breaking every little bit of like plastic off inside it. If you look through it, it'll probably still have like a little piece of plastic which is blocking the hole. Where AutoPots are proper, it's probably been like a proper. I don't know how they made them. Like I just think of like a cast or a die. You know that they're done properly though,
because so this is the message, and it applies to everything really. Buy the proper.
No, that
kit.
Though something like that could catch you out because you'd put that on
never know.
And then be thinking, what's going on?
Why isn't that filling? And you might blame it on the valve.
You know what I mean?
So I imagine they are cheaper because they're cheaper made. But these connectors are
you get
pounds.
Over it. Just buy the proper one.
Yeah,
do the eye test. Just look for it.
If you want to see, it's actually got AutoPot stamped on it.
Yeah,
so that's how you know that they're done properly. But buy proper. Don't risk it because you're gonna. This has only recently come out to my knowledge. And if you buy shitty kit, copied. No, we're not going to go down the route of copied kit. But if you buy shitty kit, then this is the problems you could have. They could not be filling up the valve. So that's that. Don't buy shitty kit. And onto today's episode, flowering power. So we've covered the propagation. Don't say it, Barry.
He's my little flower, aren't you? You've blossomed.
Yeah, you've said that already, mate.
Saying it again, you all know.
So we're talking today from week 3 of flower, because was it last week we did the transition mission? It was, wasn't it?
The transition mission. Where did you get that from?
I made it up. You know what? You know what I'm coming up with the titles.
Why?
You love it.
Concentrate on podcasting.
I am. But you know when Coach sends it to me on a Friday, and I upload it and do all the title, and I think of something smart because it's all in the title. Imagine I called it the transition, and people would be like, "Was he turning into a woman? Is he?" I've called it the transition mission. Sounds a bit more exciting, doesn't it?
Sounds like you're on a mission to turn into a woman.
Well, that's another industry. That's another industry shout out that we'll do next week, or not. Week 3 until flush. It's the bulk of today's episode. So we're going to get started. It's mostly about the nutrients this week. There's not a whole lot that you can do with your lighting. You can get more efficient lighting. So your 1,000 watt double-ended HPSs are more efficient than your 600 watts. So if you're looking to upgrade your lighting, then going from 600 to 1,000 is a much more efficient. But here's another important point. We all look at what is going on in the US, and they have very tall ceilings, or they have warehouses where they can use the 1,000 watt double-ended lights. We bring that technology over to the UK, and people think that they can put 1,000 watt double-ended lights in their 2 metre tents or their standard ceiling rooms, which you just haven't got the height for a 1,000 watt double-ended in the small tents. So,
what is it, a metre away, isn't it? 1,000 watt double-ended.
It's a metre away. Your minimum ceiling height has to be 2.2 metres. Like, it has to be 2.2 metres up so that you can allow for that plant growth.
So minimum ceiling height, though, is about 2.4.
Is it? So you can get away with it if.
I mean, obviously you get smaller and you get bigger, but I'm sure on average, like most new builds now, are about 2.4.
So 2.3. That's from the bottom of the light. A lot of lights,
and a lot of lights are that big, aren't they? 200 mil.
Yeah, they've got. So what's that? Yeah, 200 mil, 20 centimeters before the light even starts, and you start taking away that extra, and you're literally on the edge of what you can do with your lights. That's why, to be honest, Revolution's lights, which are flat, have really changed the market, because it's allowing more people to get the lights close to the ceiling, and can allow more growers to use the 1,000 watts. If you're in a tent, you have to go for the tents that are 2.2, but ideally 2.4 meters tall. Again, not many people have got those ceilings. But is that a standard? Is it 2.4?
Most that I've built.
Yeah.
2.4, between 2.3 and 2.4.
Right. So you can maybe just get away with it with the 2.4 high tents, can't you? They're expensive.
But then if you put the light in, if you put the light in, the light's probably starting at about 2.2 then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most lights. Just saying that though, some of them have the ballast stood up like that.
That's what I'm saying. It takes away
could
all
be
of the
300 mil, so you're left with about 2.1 now, aren't you?
But you get very careful if you're looking to switch to 1,000 watt double-ended lights. But they are more efficient, and you will get more flowering power out of them.
Dun, dun, dun.
You love that little show, don't you? But there's not a huge amount you can do with your lights. It's mostly nutrients, PKs. It's the main nutrients additive that people get excited about in flowering, isn't it? So, when do you start using PK?
Week 3.
It's very start of week 3.
But that's only. I'm a big lover of Explode. Dutch Pro Explode. I'm a big lover of it. So that's.
But let's be honest. It works. Works very well. It works obviously. Very well, yeah. That's why I like it. But it's easy to use.
Yeah.
Like, it's 1 mil per litre, and it's got its PKs in there, and it's also got its sugars and everything else that some companies split apart.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah, it works really well, and you've used it with other base nutrients. Used it with CANNA A and B.
I've used it with loads of it. I've used it
running
the full Dutch Pro. I've used it with CANNA. I've used it with Hydroponics. I've used it with.
Just fits well with. It just fits well with.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You can put it with anything.
It's a good.
It's a bit like a flower. It's a bit like a flower base to me. You can put like. I look at it like it's an additive. That it doesn't matter what base nutrients I used. I'd probably use that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I hope they don't bite me head off for this, but I would go so far to say is if you're after real quality, then it's more about being financially viable. Like it's 1 mil per litre. Most places around the country, it's 70 to 80 pound for a litre. So it doesn't hurt on the pocket. Goes a long way. Treats 1,000
litres in it,
1
mil per litre.
So it's a good nutrient if you're looking to save the coppers
and keep it simple.
Yeah, and keeping it simple.
And you still do get a good result and know what you're going to say if you want full quality flowers.
Yeah.
Like full quality, and that's what you're going for. Award winning stuff. You feel terrible saying you'd maybe use something else. Maybe.
Whatever they've formulated it from, it's focused on being good on the pocket, low dilution rate, and it works well.
And it works wonders.
Middle range, it's definitely not shit.
Right.
But
it's just a bit past middle range. Don't put them down that much. It's nearly there.
Well, it's up there with the best,
It's up there with the best, mate.
Yeah, and
I'd put that, me personally, I'd put that in the top 3.
I'll allow you to put it in first place. It's out of, there's boost products, there's PK products, and then there's combo products.
Yeah.
There's a combo product.
It's top spec.
Yeah.
It's number 1.
I'll give a shout out to another product though, a Thymy Bloom Bastic.
Yeah.
When we've been growing in our lab, it's a product that I've never actually used, but a lot of people that do use it, like they really will not move off it. You try and get somebody off their Bloom Bastic, they're not coming off it.
I think it just struggles that little bit though for system growers and stuff
100%.
like that, because it comes out
Very
like tarmac.
thick. Yeah, I'm not 100%, but I believe that there's a bit of a silty solution at the bottom. So if you're using Thymy Bloom Bastic, you've got to shake it really well, make sure it's fully mixed up, and then you still get that little bit of silty. I believe it's something to do with keeping all of the elemental components all together in the right ratio, so that when you do give it to your plants, everything is as it should be. But like you say, use it in AutoPots, it can struggle. Use it in any system. If you're not a clean grower and you're not cleaning out the pipes,
you still can use it in systems, but you've just got to be on the ball with putting something in your system just to keep everything clean.
I wouldn't use it in an AutoPot because it's that 6 mil line. So I wouldn't be using it myself in AutoPots or anything where there's small 6 mil line. I'd be dubious about 16 mil line, because if you're not a clean grower, it can clog up. But these pro systems are starting to come out with the thicker 24 mil piping. You're not going to have an issue with them. If you are an AutoPot grower or a small line system grower, then I would still be able to use a Thymy Bloom Bastic, but you top feed it, wouldn't you?
And feed it.
Yeah, so do everything.
That just takes away the whole fucking thing. You've just took the system out of it now, haven't you? You know what I mean?
But if you want to bottom feed in AutoPots and you love the system and you want to try Bloom Bastic, I would personally recommend them top feeding. Yeah. There's a few other products. There's Rock Resonator is another combo product.
That's a PK, isn't it?
It's a PK, and you don't necessarily have to use those sugar boosters that people add in as well. I'm hearing really good feedback about Rock Resonator. Small dilution rate, easy on the pocket, and never used it myself personally, but again, the people, if you listen to forums, if you listen to the customers, and you keep your ear out in the industry, quality is really good as well from it. So we'll get back to products, but why do we PK? So why do we add the phosphorus and potassium? CANNA used to recommend adding the PK in week 5 of flower or mid-flower, and that is technically when the plant really needs it. So you would add it in week 5 because when your flowers, your tomatoes are really starting to produce weight, then they need that extra bit of energy. And phosphorus and potassium is mostly for the increase in metabolism, transport of sugars, transport of water. It does a lot within the plant. They're also really essential in vegetative growth as well. A little bit of science. The energy currency of a plant is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It's the energy that we've got as well. It's adenosine tri-3-phosphates. So, and it's the most used energy within plants and with humans. So that's phosphate is phosphorus. So if the plant doesn't have phosphorus or doesn't have it readily available, its energy is a lot lower. So when it's in peak flower, and it's pushing all of its energy that it can and hasn't got an adequate source of phosphorus, then it doesn't have the energy and you don't get the full potential of flowering. So no matter what people say, there is a little small group of people that go, you can just use base nutrients. I don't PK, but it's plant biology. They need that PK in mid-flower.
You can just use base nutrients, but you're just never going to get
that. You're not
to
going to
where
reach
you
genetic
should
potential.
be. Yeah.
Now, we started off by saying that CANNA recommended using their PK in week 5, but over the last year or so, they've changed that. If you didn't know, look on the back of the bottle. It actually says now, it doesn't say from week 3, it says from the onset of flowering sites.
To be honest, with CANNA PK, everyone who I know who uses that, it just started on week 3.
Yeah, because
if it's there, if the plant doesn't want it, Stephen, it's not
going to
take it, and it's not going to use it. Is it, Stephen?
No, it's not, Barry.
And when it wants it, it's there to be absorbed.
It is.
It certainly is.
Why are you speaking in a posh tone when you start talking about sciencey?
You started it, I don't. You're the science kid.
No, you started. I'm starting to rub off on you, aren't I?
You are.
Yeah, your little petals start to rub off on you. Yeah. So from week 3, I believe that anyone that was using it in week 5, which is technically the right time to start using PK, but if you've got 100 people in front of you, plants are like people. That's what I always say. If you've got 100 people in front of you, or 100 plants, they all don't want to eat at the same time.
No.
Some people are ready for the dinner at 6. Some people are ready for the dinner at 8. And if you're given the dinner at 5, then the people that are ready for it at 6 are quite happy. But the people that were ready at 8 are being forced to eat before they want it. And then there might be some people that wanted dinner at 3 and they've had to wait 2 hours.
There might be some people that aren't even hungry and want it in 2 days. Or
That's
there might
definitely
be...
not you, is it?
No, I can eat.
You're ready to eat at any time of the day.
Yes.
Give Barry PK all the way
day.
through the day.
In veg.
Even in veg.
Yeah.
Even when you're taking cuttings from Barry, he wants feeding.
I want spraying with PK. When I'm in the pop.
And dipping in all kinds. Now, if the reason you start at week 3, I believe, is that you put it in so it's there when the plant wants it. If it doesn't want it, it's not going to take it up. And if it does want it, it's there available for whenever it's needed. So that's why we PK. It just helps increase with the swell on the flowers. I haven't written much this week, have I? Do you know why I haven't written this much this week?
You know why?
Why?
Because you just rushed off your feet, mate.
Well, that's the main reason.
Well, I'm giving you credit there. You have rushed off your feet, but
I was in London
you should have
yesterday.
well had this sorted, though, shouldn't you, Josh? Shouldn't you, Josh? Just say it.
You're not saying
Calm
nothing.
down.
The grammar police will be after you. If you're not saying nothing, then you must be saying something.
Yeah, you'll have to explain that another time.
If you're not saying nothing, you must be saying something. Do you get it? You don't get it?
I'm just not saying nothing.
Uh,
Clever bastard.
Well,
No comment.
we went to London yesterday, and it was actually nothing to do with our industry. It was called the BVE Expo,
Why are you telling us that?
because this is why I didn't do much for the podcast preparation, mate, because I actually booked us a table seat, and Josh said, "Can you have forward-facing seats, please, so I don't get train sick?" And we ended up getting no tables, and we were rear-facing. So just like this, the whole way. Yeah, it wasn't
What
good.
did you go to London for?
BVE Expo. I found out yesterday it stands for Broadcast and Media and Entertainment. I didn't actually find out. I've just made them up, haven't I? So it could mean something completely different. But we believe it's Broadcast, Media and Entertainment. We went as NPK Media, and we went to see what all the top people are doing in the industry. And it blew my mind. Now, you know what it's good for? Because anyone that's new to our industry and has maybe recently got a job or is just starting out in our industry, I remember how you feel again. I walked around there like, oh my God, this is like alien. I'm used to walking around shows because the only shows I go to are hydroponic shows in the UK or around the world. And I know a good few people. I know what I'm talking about. I can get in discussions and arguments and debates with anybody, and we have a good time. I walked up to the first person and said, "So what does this do?" He started going, "Well, you use this cable and you tweak this knob," and I just went lost within 10 seconds. I was like, and he carried on talking to me for 10 minutes. And I was like trying to get away, like trying to say to me, I'm not gonna, you could be speaking French to me. I have not got a clue. And he wasn't asked. He just carried on waffling on about his fucking broadcast kit. But it was a brilliant day. We learnt loads. I'm going to get some new products and increase the experience of everyone that watches the podcast, watches the YouTube, and for the media company. It's going to be great. Got some really good products out there. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. We didn't have a table seat, so I've just bullet pointed what I wanted to say. So there you go. On to Boost. Actually, no, let's talk a little bit more about PKs, because we talked about combo PKs, which work well for people. Work well for people that want to keep it simple. For people that want to go into a bit more depth and like to tinker and tweak a little bit, you buy your additives separately. You would have separate PKs. The one that stands out foremost, because it's been around the longest, is CANNA's PK 1314. And then you've got other PKs like Butters Tree 918. You have all these different ratios. So a podcast on PK ratios is a podcast in itself. It's not. I don't want to get into it now. One, because I haven't got all facts and figures in front of me.
Honestly, God, look, I couldn't even tell you the PK ratio in Explode. I couldn't. Do you know it?
Not many people could. No. Because it actually doesn't say it on the bottle. But if it doesn't say it in big bold letters on the bottle, if you look on the back, it'll say P205, 0.56%, and then K20 or whatever it is will be 1.3%, which is obviously just gone to the lowest common denominator. Let's start again. They've gone to the lowest common denominator. Nearly fucked that up again, and just put the ratios at the bottom. So it is quite a hard one to figure out their ratios, but most people put the ratios on the front of the bottle. 1314, 918, and Bloombastic. What's Bloombastic? 1213, I think.
Isn't it 13 something?
1213. Josh can look it up for me now, can't you? PK ratio of Bloombastic. Look that up. Or, actually, you put your phone in front of me, didn't you? It's not 1314. It could be.
Could be,
It could be. And you know what? I looked at the bottle as I walked out the shop before. I was like, yeah, we'll mention Bloombastic. That's a good
I'm sure
product.
I've never seen before.
BlueBastic is an extremely strong PK. 02021.
02021. That's it. Right, let's...
So we were wrong by miles there.
Absolutely miles, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we know.
Shows how much we sell.
We just don't read the bottles as we sell it, do we? Let me jump onto YouTube here, because I just want to have a little quick look at what people are saying. They could be slating us. I'm going to double check.
Slating you, don't slate me.
But let's get back to it. Podcast on PK ratios is a podcast in itself. A very deep,
for hours
highly scientific one. I'd probably like to get a guest on for that as well. Somebody who looks at ratios. But something for further research, or if you're interested and you want to do a bit of Googling tonight, look at weight to volume or weight to weight ratios. A lot of companies are changing from weight to weight, from weight to volume to weight to weight. Apparently it's more accurate, more of an industry standard. In the US, if you use CANNA PK, it's actually PK 1011 because it's weight to weight. It's 1314 is weight to volume. I did know the difference, but if you don't use it, you lose it. So that's why we all need to do a whole new podcast on it. Let's have a little look at these. Oh yeah, audio much better, loads better sound. Do you stock green air systems, and what's your opinion on these? So I'll answer the question. We'll do a little question. Green Man or Green Air? What was it? Green Air Systems. Yeah, I think it's the Green Man system. From the guys in Leicester, the Premier Hydro. That's their shop in Leicester. Good guys, good shop. If you go there, they actually. I'm going to tell a little story now. When they put their system into our lab, technically phenomenal system. It's got the slope on the bottom. It can be flood and drain. It can be DWC. It can be, I believe it can be recirculating. Brain, brilliant. Just a good all-round system. White top with an inspection lid on the top. And when they originally made it, I think they used multi-flow fittings, multi-flow borers and grommets. Worked well. And for some reason, some of their customers wanted slightly bigger holes, and they wanted to change it slightly. So they didn't really want to, but they did it, and they brought that system to us, and it leaked a little bit. So, but to be fair, as you knocked
it was in the developing stages.
yeah,
then,
as you knocked it, and we were mopping and hoovering. If you knocked it, it could jar the piping and it could leak a little bit. Not a massive leak, but it would get worse over time. So he brought them over, and he had to look at it. He went, "Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to give you the original fittings." I went, "Show me the original fittings." Put it all together. I said, "They're off the multi-flow, aren't they?" He said, "Yeah, the multi-flow fittings, but with our slope system and blah blah blah." I went, "Well, I don't have to test that. I know that's going to be a great system because I know multi-flows don't leak." I said, "Why are you just using them now?" And he told me the whole story of that's what he originally started with. And I think now they are making the two options available for the people that want the extra size holes. They do that for them. But for the majority of people, they're using the multi-flow fittings. And phenomenal system. Works really well. Definitely worth having a little look at. Hopefully that answers your question. What else was there? Plasterboard is 2.4 metres. So there you go.
8 before.
Yeah.
1.2 by 2.4.
So that means that ceilings will be 2.4 in most houses. Sumo Boost, that's from what is it? Remind me of the range. Tell me, what's the range?
Shogun. Isn't it?
Shogun, that's it. Never used it.
Will you ever?
People that listen to the show know that.
Will you ever use it, Stephen?
Probably not, Manny, because not really anything against them. I know the biochemist that puts it together. She's phenomenal biochemist, Callie, really good, really lovely woman, and knows her stuff as well. But it's the fact that they came out with the full range in one. So I just don't know how many. I know actually for a fact 2 or 3 products are innovative and new to the range. I've got a feeling though that a lot of the products are taken from maybe Vitalink and just put with a nice new sticker on there. The range is doing really well. It's not a bad range. Everyone that I look is using it on Instagram. Not got a bad word to say about it. So yeah, not really. I've never used it. I won't stock it in the shop.
What's
because
next?
It is what it is. I think that's where we're up to on the comments so far. And my phone keeps on going off. So, PKs. You've got CANNA. You've got Buddha's Tree. You've got other ones as well that aren't quite as out there. Hydroponics Floral Boost. That's got their PK in it.
Their PK in it, hasn't it?
That's probably a bit of a combo.
Is that with is it with their sugars or with their
I think that's
Meta?
with their sugars. Buddha's Tree's got Meta Boost, so that's they've split them up and you can use the two separately. And Mills have got C4 and PK, so they've split theirs up as well.
What's Mills stopped doing?
Sugar Rush. So they've changed the recipe.
Because couldn't you use it like C4 and Sugar Rush?
Apparently for more Sugar Rush for more weight. And because it's opposite from what you think.
Yeah.
Sugar Rush, you think more flavour, but it was actually more weight. PK for more flavour. But the extra
C4 and PK.
C4 is just all the way through.
Yeah, but you could either use their PK or the Sugar Rush.
But they took Sugar Rush off because in their testing, they found that if you use PK at a certain ratio, it acts like PK, like the product was intended to. If you use a slightly higher dosage, it was doing the same thing that Sugar Rush was doing anyway. So they just decided to remove Sugar Rush, which, to be honest,
they put on the labels to up the dosage of PK.
Well, they're about to. They hadn't done, but I have seen their new feeding regime, and it's all on the recipes there. So, you know what? That's not a bad thing for a company to do, though, because I think some companies would have probably just left that Sugar Rush on the shelves, wouldn't they, just to sell more. So the fact that they took it off is all right. Yeah, I'm not. That works well for me. What?
I don't know.
Would you have left it?
No, they pulled it.
Yeah, like they did.
Yeah, they pulled it.
Yeah. So just use C4 with their PK. Yeah. And the C4 and the PK.
As long as they tell
PKs
everyone to up the PK, and people aren't buying another bottle, then are they?
Yeah.
And you've already got it.
One.
You know what I mean? It's there then.
If we think of any more PKs, we will mention them. If any more come off,
there's loads out there.
There's hundreds. Yeah. Every range has got a PK. Yeah. So every
Advanced
PK
Nutrients, what's theirs?
It wasn't Hammerhead.
I get lost with this.
Hammerhead 918.
Who makes the names up for Advanced Nutrients?
I don't know. Walt Disney.
Rhino Skin. Wet Betty.
Walt Disney, I think, must have made the names up. Marketing, really, isn't it? Lovely labels. Got to give it to the graphic designer, haven't you, Josh? Lovely labels and inventive names. But
what else is out there?
We don't put more actual salts into their water. I'm not going to advance flash.
Let's just get off on that one.
What PKs do you use? Let me know if you use anything different that we haven't mentioned. But on to boosters. We've sort of half covered boosters as well. CANNA Boost is the one that kicked it all off. Done in 2007 and around for 2006, 2007. Been around for 10 years. There's obviously been a lot bigger boosters, but I know the process that you go through to make CANNA Boost. It's all about fermentation. It's got no NPK in it. It's not salt-based. It's purely plant-based material. They go through a long fermentation process. It's got multiple sugars in there, simple sugars and oligosaccharides, which is like long-chain sugars put in there. Good product. And we can sort of dip our toe into PGRs because CANNA Boost has a PGR in it.
But it's not.
Did you have to ruin that?
Yeah.
I wanted everyone to go, and you just stopped it straight away.
Isn't it two things that are in the bottle sort of react and come out looking like that, but it's not really that or something?
CANNA Boost uses seaweed, the amino acids and the vitamins that are in seaweed. Seaweed's a phenomenal product. I think we mentioned it during the transition, didn't we, to use a seaweed product to help with stress.
Bloom does a good one, don't they?
They do, yeah. That's what's one of the main ones we use. Ascophyllum nodosum.
What?
Ascophyllum nodosum. Boom. Off the top of the head.
Say it again slowly.
Ascophyllum nodosum. That's the Latin word for the particular seaweed. No, it's not a person. It's the Latin name, buddy.
What's that for, seaweed?
Yeah, I'm impressed with myself remembering that, you know.
So am I, mate.
But CANNA Boost uses seaweed, fermented seaweed in their boost, and that is where you can find the PGR, tricantanol. PGR, plant growth hormone, or plant growth regulator, I should say. And some are bad, some are good. Tricantanol, not any research to say it's bad in any way. If you add it as a manufactured in the lab and you pump it into your products.
Like a man-made one, you mean?
Yeah. It's not the end of the world, but that's not what CANNA Boost do. Their tricantanol is naturally derived. It's in seaweed naturally, so that's why you can find tricantanol in CANNA Boost. But a good all-round boost product. But moving on to PGRs, Josh has just headed me up saying that there's another comment. Using Mills DNA cocoa as a start, seedlings not seeing good results. It says there's feed in it, but there's lacking. Actually, there's no feed in Mills DNA cocoa, so you do need to give it a little bit of feed. It's not. I won't say it's not good for seedlings, but if you are putting seedlings in there, when the first set of true leaves are appeared and it starts to produce its actual set of true leaves, it's a tiny little bit of feed, maybe with something like Start, which is their nitrogen booster.
And a bit of a foliar feed or something.
Definitely. But yeah,
I think the only cocoa out there with feed in it is Atami, isn't it? Isn't that 80% cocoa, 20% soil?
Soil, yeah.
So the soil's just there just to help with babies, isn't it?
And it works really well for the first few weeks. So yeah, make sure you're adding a little bit of feed to your cocoa with cork. Phenomenal cocoa. Other boosters though, now CANNA gets a little bit of a cob on because I know how much time and effort they spent in developing their CANNA Boost. I know what goes roughly. They don't let all the trade secrets out. I know roughly the process that they go through to make CANNA Boost, and they probably a lot of products do copy CANNA Boost and just put it out there as a boost. But what you've got to be careful of is CANNA Boost doesn't affect E6 because it's got no salt. It's a purely plant-based, and it's a metabolism enhancer. It's a true metabolism enhancer. So for your plants to perform at its genetic potential, their metabolism needs to be really high. If you've got low metabolism, you eat, you put weight on, and you're sluggish. If you've got a high metabolism, your body just burns all through it, and you can eat and eat and eat, and you can exercise. And generally, people with high metabolisms are healthier people.
That's me.
That's maybe.
It's me.
You can eat all day, and there's a little bit of a...
There's nothing wrong with that.
You've moved on from your six-pack to your bottle.
No, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
I look good, me.
Yeah, if you say so. Who's been telling you that?
Yes, yeah.
No. Stop swaying off me onto you anyway. I'm the petal in this one. So be careful with your boosters because some of them do have NPK values, so they could increase your EC.
What's Hydrotops then? That the floral boost, that's a PK and a sugar, isn't it?
Yeah, they're classed as like a combo PK with a booster.
I don't think we've said enough about that though, because that is a good product, isn't it?
Very good.
The full Hydrotops range is good, but
the full Hydrotops range is phenomenal.
Yeah, but they do a cocoa one now as well, don't they?
Yes, they do. With nice green lids and
nice green stickers on.
Hydrotops don't even they'll admit themselves they do a shite job of marketing.
They don't need to,
but that's why, because they don't need to. It's word of mouth.
Let the product do the talking.
Yeah,
right.
And the growers do the walking.
Dun, dun, dun.
See, you quite enjoyed that little round there, didn't you? Yeah. But yeah, that's another product.
No, that's good.
Isn't it strange though? Like, how many people or growers do you know that would use Buddha's Tree A and B or CANNA A and B with this boost and this root stem, and then think, you know what, for me PK, I'm going to use floral boost. You wouldn't do it, would you? Like, you'd either use the full range and you use your floral boost. But for some PKs, they think it's good to use with that base and this PK. And a lot of nutrient manufacturers say don't mix and match the nutrients.
They're gonna say that, though, aren't they? They're gonna say
there's a little bit of truth to it.
Like, lad, if you use something and
everything's formulated
together. Everything's formulated together, isn't it? It's all being tried together. People don't understand that. And I think I'm right when I say this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the same with medias. If you buy, if I'm wrong, tell me, because the way I look at it is, if you're using CANNA cocoa and you put mills in it, is that buffered to that? Have they done a test to that? No. So
CANNA won't have tested. Mills won't have tested.
So you could use CANNA A and B and Mills thing, and
you'd not get away buffered. With it.
Yeah, no, but has it had some sort of buffering done to it for them feeds, or has it had?
Yeah, all good cocoa will have had buffering, and buffering just means that they'll have ran a calcium solution through it, because cocoa naturally loves to hold on to calcium. So if it wasn't buffered and you get a cheap cocoa, then as soon as you start adding your A and your B, then the cocoa will strip all the calcium and a little bit of magnesium out of your base feed and not give it to the plant. So you have to constantly, you have to add a CalMag supplement first to the cocoa to buffer it yourself, and then you can add the base feed. Otherwise, you can find that you get a bit of a calcium magnesium deficiency, because the calcium and magnesium are linked. When you get a deficiency of calcium, calcium helps with the uptake of magnesium, so they're interlinked, but it's mostly calcium. But most good CANNA Professional is buffered. Mills cocoa is buffered. So you could use the two. You could use Mills cocoa with CANNA nutrients, and you could use CANNA nutrients with Mills cocoa. Wouldn't be a problem. But you are right. When CANNA make their cocoa in their soil,
they only try it in there.
They know, well, in our A and B, we've got this ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and this of calcium, magnesium, so we need to buffer to this amount, because when they use our A and B, everything's going to level out nicely.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what
so they do that test to make, so they do match it together. But you're not going to have any problems. To be honest, you could use Mills cocoa and the full range of CANNA nutrients. You're not going to have a problem. Yeah. And the same for the opposite way around. And the same for most other good quality cocos and soils. Oh, it's definitely worth mentioning.
Definitely worth a mention.
Would you like a medal?
Yes.
Josh, we need to design medals and stickers for Barry's fridge so we can take home. Good. Sugar boosts versus metabolism boosts. We're all after a metabolism booster. Yeah. They do have sugars in them, but sugar boosters, you know what, I couldn't even name one off the top of my head, but boosters that are cheap, let's say cheap boost products, will be focused solely on just adding loads of sugars together. And it's not going to do a bad job, but all it's going to do is feed the bacteria, because plants can't uptake sugars. They can uptake ions of nutrients. So when you're adding sugar to your plant, all you're doing is feeding mycorrhiza, and you're feeding the beneficial bacteria, which, when there's a good colony of bacteria and your mycorrhiza's really healthy, they will help uptake nutrients. So that's why we add sugars, because the plant can't uptake sugars. It's a bit of a misconception that. So you add sugars and you think the plant tastes sweeter, higher Brix content. Brix being how you measure sugars within a plant. But actually, it's just the fact that the plant's healthier. It's got a good metabolism. It's uptaking nutrients in all the right ratios, and it just produces higher levels of sugar. Higher levels of sugar in a plant mean that the plant's healthy and operating at its optimum
performance.
Yes, there you go. And what else have we got? Extra additives. So you've got your PKs and you've got your boosters. They're very generic. Everyone uses PKs and boosters.
There's
But you've
loads
got
of
extra
additives, though, isn't it? Winter frost. You've got
Winter frost is a new one. Get on this. This is like completely off topic for the growers, but like if you use winter frost, it's by a company called New Millennium.
Yeah.
And they've done the logo. I don't know if Josh is on
Bosch.
this. They've done the logo. So if you turn the bottle upside down,
it still
says New Millennium. It's sick. Like whoever's come up with that, take me out off to you because that's.
But there is
really
loads
good.
of additives, though, isn't it?
There is. Winter frost is a final week finishing product. It's
Ripening's the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's not a flush though, ripening, is it?
I don't go on the record as saying they do the same job.
No.
To the grower will think they do a similar job,
But they don't.
but they don't. They will work differently. How they work is quite complicated. In some, like the ripening's quite complicated. It's just if you need to finish your plant, if you've got a bit of mold in your room and it's on the final 3 weeks left, and you need to give it the extra 3 weeks, but you can't because there's mold and you can't get rid of it. You could add ripen to make the plant go, oh, okay, we need to finish soon. Add your ripen and the
So you
plant
can
will
get it
finish,
to finish your plant quicker, can't you?
And that's by GHE, who are actually doing a rebrand soon. So we'll be announcing their rebrand because GHE is a good range of nutrients, but they are rebranding because General Hydroponics in America, owned by Hawthorne, and GHE, General Hydroponics Europe, is owned by a completely different company, and they're getting mixed up. So GHE will become a different company. It will become a different. They're having a rebrand, and this will all be come out after Barcelona, after Spanimus in March. So we'll mention that as well for anyone that's using GHE. Don't get worried; it's still going to be around. But yeah, that's winter frost and ripen. Two good products.
Terpenez.
No, that's exactly what I was about to mention next. Terpenez and Terpenator.
Haven't they just done something as well? They've just they still got the original now. They've brought out the citrus, or
That's Terpenez. So Terpenez had the original Terpenez, and now they've brought out citrus for your lemons, your limes, that sort of stuff. And I think they're bringing out a berry as well.
Are they?
Yeah, so they're bringing out
It's a good product,
Terpenez berry for your black currants, your strawberries, your blackberries. Anything that's a little bit fruity, bringing out that. So yeah, they're doing really well. But Terpenez and Terpenator work differently.
Yeah.
So Terpenator, now these two products work to enhance the oil production of a plant. Yeah. Terpenator works by stressing the plant slightly, so the plant thinks it's under stress. Similar with, we've talked about UV bulbs, and the plant produces its coating, extra UV, extra resin. That's what happens with Terpenator. It stresses the plant out, so it produces more oils and more resin.
To protect itself against something.
Whereas Terpenez works by, it's basically full of essential oils. Limonene is a big one, because that's what most citrus is made up of, is limonene. And that doesn't stress the plant out. It works just by naturally increasing the oil production. One's not, I wouldn't say one's better than the other or one's worse, just because I've said it stresses out the plant. Don't think that that's a bad thing. It's only a small stress, and that's how its mechanism of action works. And then you've got your final week finishes, and this is where I was going to bring us onto PGRs a little bit. You've got Ripen, good product. GHE works very well. And you've got a product like Overdrive, which works very well as well.
Yeah.
A little bit too well. I suspect, and this is my opinion, that it contains a PGR, and from doing research, I would suspect that it would contain a PGR along the lines of diminazide, because diminazide does what Overdrive does to plants. It ripens them up and makes everything dense. Used in the US, diminazide was used widely in the US in the apple industry, so that they could basically make the apples ripen and harden up when they wanted, because a lot of apples were spoiling as some fell on the floor, some rotted, some weren't ripening up early enough. So they used diminazide, and it did really well until it was banned, because in the US they class it as a carcinogenic. So this is something that we all need to work on. Manufacturers, wholesalers, grow shop owners, staff, growers, everybody. We need to, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we need to start trying to push out these PGRs, or just educating ourselves a little bit more about what products got in them. And I think Brexit could help us get there, because if we are out of the EU, which we're going to be in however many weeks or months, then regulations on additives will probably become tighter. And that means we should be able to find out what's in our products. Like in America, you've got to put everything that's in your product, you've got to put in there. It's also going to have some negative effects. It's a whole new podcast. We'll be doing that Brexit podcast in the hydroponics industry in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. It's going to take a little bit of research. Might actually bring a guest on just to have a chat with. But to get to the nutshell of it, we need to be careful about what we're giving to our plants, especially plants that where we consume the fruit or veg or herbs. If you're growing ornamentals, crack on. Like it's fine. There's not going to be any human consumption, so it's not as bad to be using those type of PGRs. But with human consumption, we've got to really start thinking about what products we're using. How ethical are these companies? Are the profit companies, or the companies that obviously make profits but are concerned about the end user and wouldn't put bad products into their bad chemicals into their products? So there's a few things for you to think about there. Not many top tips, because flowering's a little bit. It's an easy. Here's our top tip then. Flowering from week 3 to when you get to the end can seem a little bit easy, can't it? There's not a whole lot going on that you can alter.
The only thing that you alter in flowering is just supporting the plant.
Yeah. So
do it.
I know what you're
just do it.
What?
What are you going to say?
Go on, plants. Go on, plants.
Not
go
like
on, plants.
You support your plant with a cane or plant yo-yos or...
You've worked with me for far
too long. I just know.
I was going to actually leave that corny joke out.
I knew I could see it in your eye.
Itching. Well, my top tip is when you feel like you're going to take it easy because you're into week 3, 4, 5, 6 of flowering, it becomes a little bit easier. There is less work to do in terms of plant manipulation.
There's still loads of work to do because you're preparing for the next one.
Which is
your next cycle.
Oh, I thought you went to the next stage, which is like flushing and drying in certain crops and curing as well. Big one's tobacco. Drying and curing tobacco is just as important as getting it to veg and flower. But that's a whole new podcast. We're going to talk about flushing, finishing, curing, drying, all that in a few weeks.
That could be 3 podcasts.
Probably could be.
Could be.
But that is, let me just check our messages. Let's see. Let's not leave anybody hanging with a comment. Abe Organic Booster. Oh, good shout.
Yeah.
Abe Organic Booster. Aptus. UC Roots Flora Flex seems to be good. Agreed. Used it years ago. Drive respect. That's why you're the best. Thank you very much, Indica. I appreciate that. Really do. He said we're the best.
Yeah.
He forgets we're the only UK hydroponics. We're also the worst.
We're also
we're
the best and the worst.
Yeah, we covered this in the first podcast. But before we finish, thank you very much for the heads up, because that's what happens when you don't prepare a podcast properly. Is microbials, Abe. That's you can if you're a grow shop. You'll all know because he does a good job of plastering it all over Instagram. Go and see Seymour Green. He's distributing Abe. If you're a grower, I've heard nothing but good feedback about Abe or URB, whatever you want to call it. It's a good
Abe.
I prefer Abe. It's a good.
It's a good Abe.
We used a good Abe. I've heard nothing but goodness about it. It's a wide range of inoculants and bacterias. What else would you use in flowering? Mammoth P. So now here's one for you. There's a little bit of Tribus. There's another one, brand new onto the market, especially in the UK. Haven't quite finished with it, but looks good. It's a wide ranging inoculant, and there's all like they're having this little beef like I was going to say CFUs then, which is fan moving, but colony forming units. That's right, yeah, CFUs. Colony forming units. Mine is 1 billion per one, and mine's 1 trillion, and they're having this like science off. It's great, but we don't actually know if some mycorrhizal products, some microbe products and mycorrhizal products have been tested, and they've got nowhere near what they say they've got on in the bottle. So we need to do an in-depth podcast. We need to do some research. But what we do know is all three products work well. Mammoth P, I still put Mammoth P on a bit of a pedestal because Abe's got the growers following, like Mammoth P did have at the beginning. And then as products get bigger and better, and a lot of people start using them, growers seem, on Instagram especially, growers always seem to want to be in that little niche. I don't use Mammoth P. Yeah, that was last year. I use Abe because it's current and it's the newest one. And I imagine if Tribus do a good job of marketing and getting their product out there in 6 months' time, it'll be, what, Abe? I use Tribus. I'm on the Tribus. Like, everyone loves being in the little niche, don't they? But Mammoth P is still on a pedestal for me because formulated in Colorado. Colin Bell is a good friend. He's done 3 podcasts with us. He's got scientific evidence available on Google Scholar. You can go and find it. Colorado University, and he's got it. And he actually used it on cannabis plants because it's legal in cannabis. It's legal in Colorado. So he used it on cannabis plants, and the full data is available on Google Scholar. And that's why I immediately attached to Mammoth P, because he's out there on plants with research driven. And so from a good standpoint that his data is good. But I still think they're different from Abe and Tribus because it's very specific phosphorus solubilizing bacteria. That's why we've mentioned it on today's podcast in flowering, because they say up to 7, when you're adding your PKs, 70% of it's just washed through. If you top feed your PK, next time you top feed, you're flushing 70% of it away. And what Mammoth P does is he selected over 100 generations. So he put bacteria in there, populated them, got the best, let's say 10, just for simplicity, put them into the next Petri dish, evolved them, got the best, put them in, evolved them, over 100 generations, I think 114 generations, and then he noticed they weren't getting any better. He took them, identified them, put them in Mammoth P bottle with some alfalfa, which is their feed, and that's why you get some sort of strange looking, like one bottle can be really light, one can be really dark. It's got all floaty bits in it. Is, yeah. Absolutely normal. And it does work really well to help keep all the phosphorus together and give it to the plant when it needs it.
Can't you use that? Isn't there something with the EC on that as well, where it lasts at a higher EC?
Oh, yeah, because it's the SAS of phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, or for Americans, US Delta Force. It's the US Delta Force of phosphorus solubilizing bacteria. Then SES are better boys, sorry. Then, yeah, they can survive the higher ECs because the hardier, and that's what he went for when he was finding them out. If you use Mammoth P with salt nutrients, it affects the microbes adversely. That's mad. Barry's just mentioned it. It actually doesn't, because we say, you're absolutely right. If you use mycorrhizal or bacterial products and you put the EC, I believe, higher than 1.5, then the high salt solution can negatively affect the amount of microbes and from the populations. But Mammoth P is like, boom,
the
hard. Like, what, lad? I've got a high.
That's what wins it for me over them other ones, is that
the proven high EC.
So you might all be jumping on Abe and what's the other ones?
Tribus is a new
but you all end up back on Mammoth P.
I think the high price point puts people off, but what you've got to remember
look at
is
the dilution rate on it.
0.16 mil per litre. Yeah. So into 10 litres, 1.6 mil. Into 100 litres,
how much is it for a 1 litre?
Oh, no, you're asking, Barry. 180, 190 for a 1 litre, but that treats 6,000 litres off the top of my head. 6,000 litres for 180, 190 pounds, and it works. So when you're adding your PKs, it's basically like saying, I'm adding this great PK. Mammoth P is going to help the plant uptake it more. So there you go. Do some research though. What's the research that we need them to do? Look up your PGRs. Look up Diminizide and what happened in the US industry and why it was banned. Look up your mycorrhizal products. Research weight to weight and weight to volume in your PKs.
So that's in America now, though, isn't it? And then that's coming here, isn't it?
Which?
That weight to weight, weight to volume.
So it is here now. I think Buddha's Tree have got weight to weight now anyway. And CANNA PK is weight to volume, but in America it's weight to weight already. That's why it's 10 to 11 in America and 13, 14 here. So a lot of research for you to be going and doing. That is my take-home message, as well as all the top tips. Barry said support your plants. Don't get lazy on flowering. Make sure if it's trellis netting or if it's these easy grow, how would you describe these, like white plastic things with hooks and string? They're phenomenal. Or just string.
Easy
support
grows,
your
aren't
plants. Is that what they're called?
Easy something.
Easy pulleys or
Something
we've been shit today with
like
names.
plant
haven't we?
yo-yos, aren't they?
Plant yo-yos, that's it.
Plant
Yo-yos, that's it. And you can pull your plants down, you can support them, all kinds. Support your plant is a good one. And do your own research as well. Don't just listen to us. What I expect listeners to do is disagree with us and go and do research. Agree with us, but then double check what we're saying, because at the end of the day, we're just two bellends in Liverpool that like to talk a lot. So always go and do your own research. Double check what we're saying. And if you can find what we're saying to be true, then it's probably likely to be true. If you find something that disagrees with us, message us so that I can research it, or I can say, actually, like with the high EC, actually it's this, and it actually works with the high EC. There you go. You're happy, Barry?
I'm happy.
You've come in today, haven't you?
Burnt me head out with some science there, though. Don't feel like I've really said anything. It's just like science me out.
Yeah.
I feel tired.
You want to have a cigarette now, don't you? Just sit in bed.
I put my feet up.
Yeah, you do anyway. Last check of comments before anyone sees. Yo-yos. Martin rendered to the rescue with yo-yos. Thank you very much. What was I going to say? I was going to give some shout-outs, but I've been very busy. I'm up the wall. I will definitely do some shout-outs next week. For anyone that's commenting, somebody did say something on Instagram messaging, and I said I'd shout them out. I can't remember, but I will do next week. So, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching live, if you watch live, or if you're watching after the fact because you've been in work busy. Thank you very much for watching.
Do you reckon they might raffle AutoPot off? I reckon that's the next one. They might, you know, the way you buy cars on raffles and watches on. I reckon that'll be the next one.
What?
AutoPot's getting raffled off.
I'm not selling my business. I'm putting it up for raffle.
Yeah, I'm putting it on raffle. Go on Instagram and buy a ticket.
Don't be a dickhead, Barry. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, plenty of them.
Right, that was podcast 167, Flower Power. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back next week with another podcast that I will think of next week. See you all later.
I think of one?
You can. What do you want to talk about next week?
Myself. I might just leave you out, come here with Josh. I'll be on time, as Josh knows I am, and I'll leave on time, as Josh knows I do.
Do you know why you're on time?
Do you know what I mean?
You don't have to print this shit out. I have to do all of the research, and you sit there being funny, being everyone's new favourite presenter. Don't let it go to your head, mate.
I'm going.
Yeah, you do. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.